Boldwood presents Meet Me Under the Clock, written by Jo Lovett, and read by Fran Burgoyne and Max Dowler. Chapter 1. Nadia. In hindsight, Waterloo Station wasn't the best place to choose to meet my blind date this evening. I'm not sure why I didn't realise how rammed it would be. It's famously a very busy station, and a lot of people like to go out in town on sunny summer Saturdays. I hope Dougie, my date, and I are going to manage to spot each other amidst all the people swarming around. My phone's buzzing away like nobody's business as I make my way over to our agreed meeting place, under the big station clock, at what I hope is the perfect speed to impress Dougie if he's watching. I don't want to be walking too fast, I don't want to look over-keen, or too slowly. I don't want to look nervous, although I am a bit nervous because I do not have the best track record with first dates. Maybe I should have worn a less bright dress and not told him what I'd be wearing, so I could have arrived a bit more anonymously. It feels weird going across the concourse like I'm on display. Okay, no, it isn't weird. I am just walking across Waterloo Station, like I often do. No biggie. I just happen to be on my 7th first date of the year, and it's still June, and the others have been spectacular disasters, but it's going to be absolutely fine. My phone buzzes again for what must be at least the 20th time in the past 10 minutes, and I stop for a moment to take it out of my bag, suddenly worried that it's Dougie himself calling the date off. No, it's fine. It's two chats. My work girlfriend's about a midweek cinema trip, and my best friend Gina. Gina, who is not an anxious person, has sent me 11 messages in the past 15 minutes, all to the effect of, "Do not forget I can emergency call you or call the police, not to be too OTT if things get tricky, just message me." I am now feeling a tiny bit anxious myself, if I'm honest. But no, it will be fine. We're meeting in the middle of a busy station concourse and going for a drink at a busy local bar. All very safe. And I'm sure Dougie will be lovely. He's a friend of an acquaintance. Of course he won't try anything dodgy. And if he isn't lovely, I can easily leave. Also, I'm dressed for success, which is not to be sneezed at. It does actually work. I'm wearing my most flattering fit and flare dress in a coral shade of red that I love, my favourite incredibly comfortable wedge heels, and my swear-by scarlet lipstick. 7th time lucky. It's bound to be. Definitely. As I get closer to the clock, I, obviously, begin to study the men already standing under it and those approaching it. Dougie is Sammy from IT's flatmate. According to Sammy, Dougie is tall, average build, blonde, and not bad looking, and the perfect match for me. I'm not totally convinced because Sammy does not actually really know me, and my initial reaction to his suggestion was no, certainly not. But then my colleague and very good friend Marisa pointed out that 5 out of my last 6 first dates have been via online dating. The other one was an in-person speed dating thing. I will never do that again. And persuaded me that maybe being set up by a mutual friend is the way forward. I'd definitely call Sammy more of an acquaintance than a friend, but never mind. I can't see any men of Dougie's description in the vicinity. There's a shorter blonde man, there's a shorter man with very dark hair, and there's a tall man with mid-brown hair with his back to me. I don't think any of these men are Dougie. It's okay, though. It's still only 2 minutes past 7. He's probably just slightly late. Well, almost exactly on time, in fact, if he arrives soon. Sammy catches the Northern Line to work, so I'm guessing that's how Dougie will be getting here. And no one can ever predict exactly how long a tube journey's going to take. He's probably just been delayed. Or maybe he's one of those people who's always slightly late. There's every chance that he's truly perfect for me and is, in fact, the future father of my adorable twin children, and he's rushing here now, and we will reminisce in years to come about his cute and hardly ever annoying innate slight lateness. Or alternatively, he's... Oh. A woman right underneath the clock, a few feet ahead of me, has just screamed, "You bastard," at the man next to her. And now she's in floods of tears. He's shaking his head and looking pretty tearful himself. I'd guess they're a few years younger than my parents, and they both look stricken. It's horrible seeing two people so visibly upset, and I whip my head away from them, hoping that I haven't been staring. My eyes alight on two elderly women standing facing each other, holding hands. They've both got moist eyes too, except their tears are accompanied by smiles and what sound like endearments. I'm smiling too, I realise, just looking at them. And possibly staring again. Okay, I don't want to be voyeuristic. I don't want to intrude into either the sadness or the happiness of the personal moments of complete strangers. I'm going to stay here, a few feet away from the clock, so I'm not too close to either couple, and I'm going to look at the floor. Or maybe over at the Boots or the M&S food store I can see. Or maybe up towards the clock. The clock tells me that it is now 8 minutes past 7. I look around. There are no tall blonde men anywhere in sight. The tall man with mid-brown hair who still has his back to me could perhaps at a push be described as vaguely blonde, except his stance tells me that he's looking into the distance, so I'm guessing he's waiting for someone coming from one of the platforms in the opposite direction from where I came. Plus, he did a slow 360 as I was approaching, and if he'd been looking out for Red, he'd definitely have seen me. It really doesn't seem likely that he's Dougie. I haven't yet been stood up on any of my dates, but I do not have a good feeling about this. I wonder how long I should wait. Also, given that Dougie is a friend of a friend, I feel that if I leave on the assumption that he isn't going to turn up, it would be polite to let him know that I've gone, just in case he does eventually make it. But how should I word it? "Hi, it seems pretty obvious you've stood me up, but I'm just letting you know that I'm going now, just on the off chance that you in fact got legitimately held up." No. "Hello, you arse. Thanks a lot for standing me up." No. "Hi, Dougie. I'm sure you had an excellent reason for not coming, and I totally understand that, but I'm a busy woman, so I'm off." Still no. I really don't think he's coming. I don't know Sammy well, but I do know that he's very gossipy. I'm really not looking forward to the whole office knowing that his flatmate stood me up, after he'd seen a photo of me and heard Sammy's description of me. And quite possibly seen me and then scarpered. I think I'm going to message Dougie to say that I arrived, just in case he's seen me, but have to leave due to a family emergency, and I'm so sorry that I couldn't wait to apologise in person. Yes, that's perfect. I'm cheering up already, actually. I didn't really want to go on a blind date this evening, if I'm honest. After this, I think I'll give dating a rest for a bit, and then, when I'm ready to go again, I'm sure it will be 8th time lucky. Okay, just in case meeting Dougie would be 7th time lucky and he has been legitimately held up, and given that we were introduced by Sammy rather than a dating app, I'm going to give it until 7:30 before I leave. Just in case.
Chapter 2. Tom. I know it's ridiculous, but I'm beginning to worry slightly that Lola isn't going to turn up this evening. I mean, I know she is, because she's the one who instigated this, and it was only 3 days ago when she messaged, and she was very precise about where she'd be coming from, where we should meet, everything. It's a little odd that she isn't here already, though. Rationally, her train's probably delayed. British Rail being what it is. What time is it, though? We definitely agreed to meet at 7. I'm surprised she hasn't messaged me to let me know she's running late. I walk backwards to look up at the clock and... bugger. I've crashed into someone. I hear a piercing scream, basically a very loud "Gah!" and get an impression of a lot of red clothing topped off by a lot of dark brown curly hair before I put my arm out and catch her. It turns out that the person I've nearly taken out is a medium-heighted woman. I'm so sorry, I tell her. Should have looked where I was going. I'm surprised I didn't see her somehow in my peripheral vision. The dress she's wearing is bright. Oh, no, don't worry. It's easily done, honestly. I hope she isn't just being polite. I have a nasty feeling that I might have crushed one of her feet beneath mine. Are you... I begin to ask before I'm interrupted by an incredibly loud tannoy announcement. What? The woman frowns. I'm frowning too. What did they say? Lockdown, as in... what? No bloody way! Screeches the middle-aged woman to my right, whose truly vicious argument I've been trying to ignore for the past few minutes. No way am I staying here with you! She yells at the man she's been arguing with. That's life taking the piss one step too far. I think you're going to have to stay, Carol, the man tells her. We don't have to speak to each other. He sounds quite hopeful. Too right I won't be speaking to you, yells Carol. I'm going. The announcer informs us all again at very high volume through the tannoy that we all need to stay exactly where we are for the time being, and that all the station exits to the streets and Tube and Waterloo East mainline station have been closed. I look around. The concourse is full of people in ones and twos and larger groups, in various states of confusion, disbelief, irritation. Close to me, under the clock, there's the woman in red, Carol and her arguing partner, and 2 elderly women who've been holding hands and beaming at each other since I got here. The announcement starts again. No one's really moving. It's actually quite hard to believe that this is happening, but the gist of what they're saying seems to be that there's a suspected terrorist incident unfolding outside the station and that we're locked down inside. We must stay where we are for the time being until they've completed preliminary investigations, and then it's possible that we will be asked to move. I don't want to worry you, but... the woman in red's semi-whispering, like she even less wants to worry anyone else. Do you think they're telling us to stay exactly where we are because they think there could be a terrorist inside here with us? No? I reply cautiously, thinking, fuck, maybe she's right. And, oh my God, where's Lola? She must have been caught up in this. And then I think, no, of course the woman isn't right. That would just be a monumental cock-up on the part of the police. They must have better information than that. I hope. No, I state firmly. If there were a terrorist inside with us, they'd be moving us to shelter, wouldn't they? Not leaving us here like sitting ducks. I say, excuse me, pull out my phone and try calling Lola. There's a ringtone, but she doesn't pick up, so I send her a quick message telling her that I'm already under the clock. As I type, Carol screeches, "Sitting ducks! Oh, God!" Yep, I probably could have used a better expression. Not sitting ducks, I say loudly. Very safe, very, very safe. I don't feel that anyone is going to benefit from Carol or anyone else getting too panicked. Obviously, I am myself panicking a little about Lola, but being rational, it would be incredibly unlucky for her to have been caught up in this and injured in any way. She's probably just somewhere on the other side of the concourse or stuck on a train just outside the station. There are probably a million good reasons she hasn't picked up my message. Exactly, agrees the woman in red. We're all going to be completely fine. She waves her phone at us and then scrolls. Nothing on here? Social media, BBC News, nothing. If anyone had been injured so far, there'd already be stuff about it online. We're going to be fine. Really? Carol's still operating at very high volume. Definitely, the woman in red says. I mean, this is Waterloo Station. They must have practiced this loads of times. Obviously. All big stations must have done. That is probably true, concedes Carol. So we should all stay calm and do exactly what we're told, says Carol's partner. Fuck off, Roger, Carol tells him. A muffled, choking sound, like a swallowed gasp of shocked laughter, comes from the direction of the woman in red, and then to my admiration she steps into the breach and says to the rest of us, I think we might be stuck here together for a while. I'm Nadia. Carol and Roger stare at her. The elderly women stare at her. I take pity on her. I'm Tom, I announce. I hope your foot's okay. I think I trod on it very hard just now. She looked as though she might be hobbling. I mean, I'm pretty sure you broke my foot, but other than that, I'm okay. She remains completely straight-faced for a moment, and then she grins at me. Joking. Totally fine, honestly. Ha! I laugh politely. You got me there for a moment. I'm glad you're okay. I'm B. The taller of the two elderly women has released her companion and is holding her hand out, and Nadia and I both shake it. After some hesitation, Roger shakes her hand too, and eventually so does Carol. And I'm Ruth. The shorter elderly woman joins in. We shake hands with her too. Roger, says Roger, and then he sticks his hand out, and B, Ruth, Nadia and I all politely pretend that we didn't already know his name. And then Carol says, I'm Carol, and we pretend again. And then we all stare at each other for a few seconds, before Nadia says, Well, this is a bit of a shock, isn't it? It is rather, B agrees. And then, as though the words won't stay inside her, she says, I'm so sorry. I appreciate that this isn't exactly the best timing for a happy announcement, and that we're all complete strangers, but I just have to tell someone. After decades of being apart for various reasons, Ruth and I have just got engaged. Ruth nods, beaming and looking a touch tearful, and they slide an arm each around the other's waist. Oh my goodness, that's wonderful news, says Nadia. I'm so pleased for you. Congratulations. Yes, huge congratulations, I say. There's a bit of a loud silence from where Roger and Carol are standing, both very rigid, about a metre apart from each other, and then Roger says, Great news. Congratulations. And then Carol adds, How lovely. Both of them sound very flat, but at a guess, they've just split up, possibly due to something Roger's done, going by the yelling Carol was doing before the loudspeaker announcement, and they probably aren't totally up for celebrating other people's news. A few awkward seconds pass, and then Nadia says, I'm so happy for you. When did you first meet? I check my phone quickly as B says, Well, like she's about to start a long story. There's no update on any news channel, and there's no reply from Lola. I try calling her again, and again she doesn't pick up. Are you all right? Ruth asks me. Yes, no, yes. I was just checking on a friend I was supposed to be meeting. Oh, I'm so sorry, B says quickly. I was being hugely insensitive. You must be very worried. I'm sure, though, that they're absolutely fine. What time were you supposed to be meeting? 7. We all, as one, look up at the clock. It's almost 7:30 now.
They were probably held up by this incident,
Ruth says. Yeah, I nod. Rationally, that is true. But why isn't Lola answering her phone?
I'm sure they're all right,
Ruth says.
Were you also...
She probes delicately in Nadia's direction.
Yes, but,
Nadia looks round the circle that we've more or less formed ourselves into. It was a blind date, and I wasn't totally sure about it, and if I'm honest, I don't think he was going to turn up anyway. So really, don't worry about me. And I'm really not worried about him. I'm sure he isn't involved in the incident. Well, I hope he isn't. No, I'm sure he isn't. We all mumble that we're sure Nadia's possible blind date is absolutely fine, especially since there's still no news of any casualties of any kind, while obviously not wanting to agree with her that, given how late he already was, he was probably not going to turn up, because it never makes anyone feel good to be stood up. It's odd, actually, because Nadia's very attractive looking, and on first meeting seems very nice. So why would a blind date not turn up? Saying that, people do get cold feet. And who knows how anyone comes across on a dating app or however they got in touch. Yeah, no, honestly, it's fine. She clearly wishes we would all shut up, and fair enough. B, you were in the middle of telling us about how you and Ruth met.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm not sure.
I'd love to hear the story, Nadia says. Roger and I agree that we would too. Carol seems to be having a bit of a silent strop, and who can blame her if this really is a breakup based on something Roger's done?
Our relationship goes back nearly 60 years.
Actually, maybe you should tell it, Ruth. B looks lovingly at her. I can't help wondering if this is kind of how Lola and I will be, once we actually find each other tonight. Obviously, since we're 35, we do not have a 60-year relationship, but 10 years of mutually thinking about each other on and off, and in my case experiencing a failed marriage during that time, and then getting back together tonight, is pretty impressive.
Let's both tell it.
There's something very endearing about Ruth.
We first met at university when we were 18, and we became very close friends, but, well, speaking for myself, I'm not sure I even understood my feelings then. Things were very different in those days, and we both ended up in relationships with men.
She pauses and looks at B.
Yes, and to give my husband his due,
B says,
he was a good man, and I did love him. And neither of us can ever regret our marriages, because we both have children,
Ruth adds.
Exactly,
B agrees.
We obviously both love our children immensely. I have 3 daughters and Ruth has 2 sons, all in their 40s now. But something was missing, sexually, and we've found it.
Ruth does a very dirty laugh, which makes all the rest of us laugh, which is impressive, because I'm internally worrying about Lola every few seconds, and Carol's still shooting homicidal looks at Roger pretty regularly.
If it isn't too
indelicate a question, Nadia asks delicately, how did you find it?
You want the sexual details?
Ruth asks.
No,
Nadia squeaks.
I meant, how did you find each other again?
B sniggers and then says,
we'd stayed in touch over the years and we ended up at the same barbecue recently and talked late into the night. And then Ruth thought to myself, I've just turned 76 and I'd realised in recent years that I'm a lesbian and that B was the great love of my life, and I just suddenly decided that I wanted to give it a shot. So she told me. And then we kissed, and it was wonderful.
Ruth's all misty-eyed, and it is beautiful. And I can't stop thinking about Lola and hoping that she's all right.
And then we both had family commitments and had to leave, and we agreed to meet here, this evening. And when we got here, Ruth pauses and looks up at Bea, and then they relink hands and squeeze. Ruth proposed, and I said yes. Bea looks tearful, in a happy way. I congratulate them again and think about Lola, as Nadia says, "Oh, that's so wonderful. I'm so happy for you." Roger shifts around a bit where he's standing and then says, "Good on you." Carol says, "Congratulations." And then she suddenly changes the subject. "Well, we're stuck here, aren't we? Why don't we do this too, Roger? Tell them our news?" Roger shifts some more. "I don't think—" "Don't you? Oh, I do, actually." Carol stands straighter and looks ahead of her as though she's addressing a large room of conference delegates. "Roger and I got married 28 years ago today. As in, today is our wedding anniversary. We arranged to meet here under the clock to go for a special dinner. Roger got here early, and so did I. From the opposite direction. Sad old loser that I am, I tiptoed up behind him to surprise him with a hug and a kiss, and it turned out that he was on the phone, talking very sexually, shall we say. Would anyone like to guess who he was on the phone to?" We all shake our heads, mutely. This is awful, but I don't have the words to halt it, and apparently the others don't either. And maybe Carol needs this, so maybe we shouldn't try to stop her anyway. "Roger, would you like to tell them?" Roger mutters that he wouldn't, and do we really need to do this? "He was on the phone to my best friend," Carol informs us, very loudly and very clearly. Such a cliché. Apparently they've been having an affair. Roger suddenly finds his voice. "In my defence, you've been working very long hours, and she was there." We all stare, wide-eyed, as Carol replies, "I've been working hard to fund our lives. Remember how we had to have a nanny because you were too busy playing golf to look after our children? And shagging Samantha too, obviously." Yes, well, I've said I'm sorry." "Oh, well, that's all right then." There's a long, nasty pause, and then Carol suddenly bursts into huge, racking sobs. Nadia and Ruth shake off their horror-struck, musical statue look and converge on her and hug her. "You absolute tosser," says Bea. There's something very powerful about swearing from someone of a generation that doesn't swear as much as subsequent generations do. Also, she isn't wrong. What an arse. "In your defence," joins in Nadia. "Really?" "My husband worked very long hours," says Bea, "and I hadn't been attracted to him for years, and I did not play away." "Well, now, I do still find Carol attractive." Roger says it like he's paying her an actual compliment. Carol lifts her head from Bea's shoulder to say, "Oh, fuck off!" "Carol, I'm so deeply sorry." The words feel so inadequate, but I want her to know how much I feel for her, how much any right-thinking person would. Solidarity?" Roger gives me a despising, "you're letting down the brethren" look. I ignore him. Ruth hugs Carol more tightly. "Carol, would you prefer to continue to discuss this with Roger, or perhaps stay here with us and ask him to take a few steps away?" "Away." I look at Roger and indicate with my head that he might like to move a few steps to his left. He shakes his head and pulls a small box out of his pocket. "Carol, I bought you an anniversary present." He opens it and tries to show it to her. "Earrings, look." "Give them to Samantha," Carol says, very quietly and quite magnificently. Roger looks genuinely confused.
Her ears aren't pierced. As the rest of us draw Carol away from him and turn our backs, I see that Nadia has one arm around Carol's shoulders and her free hand clamped over her mouth, and I'm pretty sure that, like me, she's almost laughing in shock at Roger's incredible behaviour, but very aware that she cannot actually allow a laugh to escape.
Carol, I'm so deeply sorry, says Ruth. We'd like to keep you company if we may. I promise we won't talk about our engagement again.
No, please do, Carol sniffs. I'm happy for you. I'd like to be distracted by nice things before I think about sorting out the shit show that's my life. Divorce. I'll have to fucking pay him alimony, I'm guessing.
One of my sons is a divorce lawyer, says Ruth. Ferocious, apparently. We'll get him involved.
Thank you. Carol manages to smile a little. Then she physically shakes herself and says, Tell me more about your children.
Well,
Ruth launches into a description about the lawyer and her other son, a doctor, and the 3 other women listen to her, interjecting sometimes, while I surreptitiously check my phone to see if Lola's been in touch. Nope, nothing. There's still no real update on social media or the news outlets about what's going on here either. I try hard to focus on the conversation, which has now moved on to include stories from Carol and B about their adult children, rather than spiralling into extreme panic about Lola. We met 10 years ago at a party in a pub outside Waterloo and just had an incredible connection. Nothing happened between us because I was about to move to New York for an amazing work opportunity, and Lola was in a relationship, it turned out. She told me at the end of the evening, on our way into the station, that she was actually 12 weeks pregnant, and for that reason didn't want to leave her partner, which I obviously totally understood. We did swap numbers and made one of those straight-out-of-a-corny film agreements, which you don't think real people would ever make, that if we were both single in 10 years' time, we'd meet here at Waterloo, under the clock, tonight, on the longest night of the year, 10 years on. I actually deleted her number a couple of days after that meeting, because I just felt grubby thinking about someone who had a partner and was having a baby with him, and put her out of my mind, and managed not to think about her much after that, other than on the occasions I walked past the pub where we'd met. And then, 3 days ago, I got a text from her asking if I was still single. I am officially single, as of about 9 months ago. And apparently so is she now. And so we agreed to meet. And if I'm honest, I've been really excited about it. And it seems inconceivable that she would contact me out of the blue, send all the messages she sent, and then not turn up. And for that reason, worry is clawing away at me now. Nadia breaks into my thoughts. Honestly, Tom, I'm sure your friend is okay. British Rail being what it is, they were probably just delayed and then got caught up in all of this. No replies to any of my messages, though. There are so many rational explanations for that, Nadia says. Lost the phone, stuck in an underground station somewhere due to all of this, out of data, to name but 3. She has the air of a woman who could name about 50 possible explanations, but has suddenly realised that it might seem insensitive to turn my worry into a guessing game.
Yes, there are, says Ruth firmly. Why don't you tell us about your friend? If you'd like to. Please don't feel you have to, of course.
And then I find myself doing exactly what Bea and Ruth and Carol did. I find myself seduced into that splurge your secrets to strangers who have just become your new best friends thing. Her name is Lola. I begin.
Chapter 3. Nadia. As Tom fills us in on his very romantic 10-year wait for Lola, I can't decide whether I'm worried something bad has happened to her, which would be such terrible timing for them both, or whether, yes, she's just stuck underground due to all of this. Although she would have already been several minutes late before the alert happened, or whether, maybe, she got cold feet. We're heading towards 7:45 now, and you would really think that she could have got in touch with him if she wanted to. Maybe I'm just being negative, though, because of Dougie's blatant no-show. I wonder, actually, whether I should let him know that I'm okay. I murmur an apology and pull out my phone to send a message to him, but then realise that, no, if he's nowhere near the station because he never came at all, highly likely, it's far too embarrassing. And if he's nearby, he'll know that there's no panic going on and everyone seems fine and that nothing bad will have happened to me. Yeah, no, I'm not sending him a message. She's tall and slim with long, straight blonde hair and very beautiful. But most of all, funny, kind, and amazing company. Just an all-round wonderful person, Tom's saying. Our chorus of "Aww" is interrupted by an announcement over the loudspeaker. "False alarm," Ruth says when it's finished. "All free to go?" "Except any excuse for a train delay so we won't be able to leave." Roger has reappeared. Carol has been looking almost cheery, but she immediately tenses. "Roger, please leave us," says B. "Don't come back to the house tonight," Carol says. "Well, where am I going to stay?" "Samantha's?" Carol suggests sarkily. Roger begins to speak and Carol says, "No! Enough!" "Could I make a suggestion?" B asks. "Perhaps while all the train delays die down, the 5 of us could go somewhere together. Continue talking, Carol, about whatever you like. You might perhaps even like to stay with one of us tonight. We could go somewhere local, Tom, in case you make contact with Lola." "I'd like that," Carol says decisively. "I would too." I mean it. I instinctively really like this little group of people, and somehow it feels as though we've formed a bond. I'd love to talk more to them. Plus, I am, of course, all dressed up, and I'd rather not have nowhere to go. "That would be great, actually." Tom shoves his phone back in his pocket, clearly still not having received any kind of response from Lola. Presumably, he's very worried and would like to continue to be distracted. "There's an excellent tapas place a few minutes away. We could go there," Ruth suggests. "Our treat if anyone's hungry. We'd love to have dinner with you." "We would. And I love the sound of our and we," says B. "Me too." Ruth smiles at her and, honestly, it's gorgeous. I glance at Tom and see that he can't help smiling at the sight of them, just like I can't. I really hope he gets his happy ending this evening. "That sounds perfect. Thank you," Carol says. Roger's eyes swivel between the 5 of us a few times, and then he just turns around and shuffles away. The rest of us, after realising that amidst all the drama none of us had reassured loved ones who might have heard that there was an issue at Waterloo, and shooting off a few messages to say that we're okay, join the large crowd of people heading out of the station. There's already this sense between us. Well, I feel it, and I think the others do too, that we've become a little group. It feels similar to that thing you see on a reality TV show where there's an initial group that arrive and bond really fast, and then if anyone else gets introduced to the group, even only a few hours later, it's like they're interlopers. I think we've bonded very quickly, just like that. We're jostled a lot and make sure we stay together. We match our pace to Ruth's, She's apparently had a knee operation fairly recently and isn't back to her top walking speed yet. We laughed together about a couple of small incidents on the way out, and, honestly, it doesn't feel like a stretch to say that I've made 4 unlikely new friends under the clock this evening. About 15 minutes later, we're seated at a table towards the back of the tapas place. There's a man on a little platform halfway up the back wall playing a guitar. The air's buzzing with chat. Tantalising smells are wafting their way over to us from neighbouring tables. Tom's phone has reception, so he doesn't have to worry that he'll miss a call from Lola. And even Carol's smile looks less forced now. Basically, it's looking like a way better evening for me than a blind date would have been. "Do you all drink?" asks Bea. "I'd love to order a bottle of champagne to celebrate our news. If that's all right, Carol. I don't want to be insensitive." "OK, let's get this out immediately," says Carol. "You're lovely people. I'm very lucky to have met you this evening because I need some loveliness around me right now. I'm happy for you. I want to be distracted. Please don't feel that you're being insensitive towards me. You aren't. I'd love to help you celebrate. In fact, if I may, I'll celebrate on my own behalf too. It's the start of a new life for me, one that I hadn't expected, but if I'm honest, there are downsides to living with Roger." We all nod because, well, yes. Roger and downsides. Not difficult to imagine. And then Ruth orders the champagne and some tap water, and we all start looking at the menu. Tom glances at his phone. There's been no reply to the message he sent Lola telling her in great detail where we are, and I quickly check mine too. Obviously, there's no word from Dougie. "Are you worried too?" Ruth asks me. "No?" I take a lovely, big, long sip of the champagne the waiter's just poured for us, and as it goes down, feel myself warm inside. And then, it cannot be because of just one sip of champagne. It must be the strange bonding thing we've had going on. I find myself doing what the others have all done, and splurging my thoughts. Basically, this evening I was supposed to be meeting a blind date, as I mentioned. I have a terrible record with blind dates and meeting people from apps. Terrible. They always go very badly. So I had actually decided to stop doing them and wait for love if and when it hits. Except it never does, and I would like to meet someone. So when a colleague said that his flatmate would be perfect for me and I'd be perfect for him, I was too easily persuaded into agreeing to meet this evening. And the flatmate clearly either didn't turn up at all, or he did and saw me and scarpered. Logically, Tom takes a piece of bread. He did not turn up, see you and leave, because he couldn't have seen you before you saw him. So he obviously just decided not to turn up and didn't let you know. So he's obviously a rude arse and you've had a lucky escape and it's no reflection whatsoever on you. I consider this for a moment. But it feels like a reflection. Maybe the way my colleague described me put him off. I mean... Tom's phone pings and his eyes slide to it and then back to me. Clearly not Lola. No, that just isn't likely. The most likely thing is that he got blind date cold feet, as in he didn't want to go on a blind date at all. A lot of people don't. I've never been on one. Really? I am so envious. I would love to have never been on one. And never go on one again. I need to develop better willpower. But how do you meet people? Do dating apps work for you? No, I've always just kind of met people in real life. Uni, work, barbecues, the usual. Apart from the odd weird one. Okay, I have 2 comments on that. I dipped some bread in olive oil. 1, based on my friends and me, I really didn't think there was a usual place to meet. And 2, what was your weirdest one ever? That's a good question. We both pause to join the others in thanking the server as he fills the table with plates of enticing tapas. Weird meats, I prompt when we've finished exclaiming with the others over how extremely delicious everything looks. I once met someone while we were both vomiting from food poisoning in adjacent toilet cubicles and then dated her for 6 months. Tom takes a spoonful of patatas bravas. I nod, satisfied. Definitely weird. You must have really liked each other if you were attracted despite the vomiting and the misery. Yeah, no, the funny thing is, not really. I think we thought we'd bonded because we were so miserable and no one else had been through that with us. But as time went on, it became apparent that you can't build a relationship on mutual gastrointestinal issues. I laugh. This is making me feel better about my own disastrous love life. Give me some more. Let me think. Tom hands me a plate of ham and cheese croquettes. My mouth waters just from the smell of them. Okay. Not one to big up my own weird dating experience, but this is a good one. Car crash. Both of us equally at fault. We reversed into each other. No. I shake my head sorrowfully. Clearly, you don't read or watch enough rom-coms to know that that's a huge cliché. In fiction, it happens all the time. Actually, I say it happens all the time. That is not in fact true. It used to happen all the time. It's gone out of fashion recently. I'm guessing because it got overused. I see. Tom narrows his eyes. I didn't realise you were so judgmental. Fine. I assure you that I have better ones than that you will not be able to say were clichés. I laugh again and savour a garlicky prawn as Tom thinks for a moment before he begins to tell me some more of his frankly ridiculous stories. You did what? Asks Carol, as Tom's description of beginning to date a woman he met landing in a cow pat after diving over a wall to escape a stampeding herd of cows that were not, in fact, stampeding, falls in a lull in the other three's conversation. Soon they've joined in and have begun to swap their weirdest first meets too. Honestly, I say eventually, wiping actual tears from under my eyes after a truly stunning story from Ruth involving going to the wrong wedding. Why don't I have any of these insane meat stories? Are these all true? Apparently, they are. Did you refer to some disastrous first dates, though? Asks Tom, like he's trying to comfort me about my lack of weird first meets. Well, I mean, yes, obviously. Billions.